We have another NHL trade to discuss. The other trade between the Wild and the Sharks is now complete. We'll discuss the details coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, of course, as we've talked about a few times, we know that the Wild and the Sharks have been having a lot of trade discussions. There was two players reportedly going from Minnesota to San Jose, which ended up being two separate trades. But the second one is now complete. Of course, we talked earlier about Ryan Donato being sent from Minnesota to San Jose for a draft pick. And now goaltender Devan Dubnyk is now confirmed to be traded from Minnesota to San Jose for a 5th-round pick in the 2022 NHL Entry Draft, and the Minnesota Wild have retained 50% of Dubnyk's salary in this transaction. He only has 1 year left on his contract, a little over $4 million, so they'll save a little over $2 million in cap space, and it allows the Sharks to get another veteran netminder to basically play and compete with Martin Jones without kind of breaking the bank and breaking the cap space, because they don't really have a ton of it to go around after they complete the rest of their roster here. So to get Dubnyk at 50%, really had a chance to kind of redeem himself and get back to playing the way he was before. The fresh start with a new team is pretty low risk. I mean, I personally would have thought the Sharks might go with a different route. Somebody maybe a little younger, might be able to have a little bit more long-term future potential. But at the same time, this is kind of a stopgap scenario where they have a veteran guy who can compete with Jones and see if they can both kind of run a 1A, 1B type of scenario. I mean, for Minnesota, this was a player they picked up for practically nothing. They gave up a 3rd-round pick about 5 years ago to get Devan Dubnyk. I mean, he came into the NHL with a fair bit of potential, former 1st overall selection back a long time ago. I think it was 2004, I believe it was. He played for a fair bit with the Oilers. After falling out of favor there, they decided to move on. He bounced around through, I think it was 3 different teams. He went to Nashville, stopped in Montreal. He never played for the Habs at the NHL level, played for their AHL team for briefly. Then he went to Arizona and then to Minnesota, and I believe he was given up a 3rd-round pick, I think is what they gave up to get him, and for him to be their goaltender, for 5-6 years, really, for some solid hockey. That was a really good pickup by Minnesota back then. It really worked out well. And if you look at his statistics and watching how he's played, that really last year was not good. You really seen a fall off between his performance, but really before that, he was really solid. He really found his game in Minnesota and gave them some solid years as well. And from what I've read, I think Dubnyk's had some personal stuff going on as well, which probably could have impacted his play. The team itself certainly had its ups and downs. And I understand Bill Guerin certainly wants to find a new identity for this team. He's made a lot of significant changes. A lot of the veteran guys are not going to be back. Now that's obviously a few of them. We saw Dubnyk's now gone. They're not bringing back Captain Mikko Koivu, who will enter free agency if he wants them to continue playing. They traded Eric Stahl. And there's more moves potentially coming. Donato's gone. He wasn't there long anyways. But still, a lot of those core veterans are, potentially, they just really changing the look of this team. I mean, they wonder what's going to happen to Zach Parise. He was almost traded at the deadline last year to the Islanders. So I'm not sure if that deal will be something that ever gets revisited or if he'll want to move on to another team or not. But either way, the teams are really changing. This is a pretty low-risk move for the Sharks. Like I said, they gave up a draft pick for a future year, 5th round, which will very likely not amount to anything. You can't guarantee that, of course. For a low risk, a 1-year Devan Dubnyk, if he finds his game and can play anywhere like he did for the 4 or 5 solid years that he did put together in Minnesota, they could probably look at extending him and have him compete with Jones, and it's a low-risk option. But obviously, San Jose does need to look at the longer-term outlook of their goaltending situation to see if they can find a way to get a goalie of the future, because right now it's an area that they're thin in. To have a couple of veterans there that work as a stopgap, but obviously Jones needs to get better as well, or this team is going to have a hard time taking steps forward. If Dubnyk can play better than like he did in the past, then we'll see what happens. But let me know your thoughts on this trade for both sides, and we'll discuss further down in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on any notifications so you don't miss any future update. We'll be very busy here with lots of videos this week as we get into the really busy, silly NHL season as we approach the NHL Draft coming up tomorrow, and then free agency coming up here in a few days' time as well. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.